Good afternoon and welcome to Locked On NBA. On today's show, Chet Holmgren might hold the keys to the Thunder's chances to repeat as champions. Meanwhile, the Knicks are dealing with a potentially fatal roster flaw, and we look ahead to the most important things to watch in tonight's preseason games. You are Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On NBA. However you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. I'm Wes Goldberg, and today we're talking about two teams most considered to be contenders this season, the Thunder and the Knicks. We're going to discuss what the Knicks need to do to make it out of the East in our next segment, and we're doing it with the help of Locked On's local experts, and I have two of the best with me, as always, from the Locked On Nuggets podcast. He's a senior NBA writer for the Action Network, Matt Moore. Matt?
I've watched too much preseason basketball. It's only been on for 4 days, and I've already watched too much of it. I have all the takes. I have all the takes in all the world. The Lakers are doomed, even though Luka and LeBron didn't play. The Suns are going to actually win 45 games this season. It's all happening because of preseason.
Here we go. Locked On Bulls podcast host, also Bears and Bulls creator for Bleacher Report. It's Haize.
You meant the Suns are going to win 4 to 5 games this season? Maybe that sounds more accurate.
We are going to talk about some of the preseason action that's happening, specifically looking ahead to tonight's games. Of course, we had Locked On NBA Game Night recapping all of the action from over the weekend, so you're going to want to tune into that as well if you missed some of that. But we're continuing our team preview series today with our defending champion, Oklahoma City Thunder. We asked Locked On Thunder host Rylan Stiles whether these Thunder could become the first repeat champion since 2018, and he pointed to a specific player who needs to step up and potentially even complete OKC's big three.
Rylan Stiles, Locked On Thunder. It's going to be the biggest question all year for Oklahoma City. Can they handle the pressures of repeating? Can they sustain their level of intensity? Can they sustain their level of historically great defense year over year? That will be a challenge for them. How do they handle being the team hunted? How do they handle whatever these teams have cooked up in the offseason to attempt to curb the OKC Thunder? It's a lot of pressure because in the NBA now, we're stepping into this parity era. We've seen the past 6 champions fail to make it out of the second round. Can the Thunder buck that trend and at least make the Western Conference Finals? It all rests on Chet Holmgren. So really the biggest question is, can Chet Holmgren take that next step offensively and really round out this big three and solidify this team as a dominant one in the NBA for years to come?
It's a lot to ask of Chet Holmgren. He's 23 years old. He averaged 15 and 8 last season. Matt, can he step up and be that guy this season?
I think he can. I don't think he needs to. Haize, if Chet Holmgren missed the entire season, would you cross the Thunder off of the title list?
No.
That's a reality. It's just there's one guy that they need, and that's Shai, and it's not even that they're that dependent on them. It's just he's the only guy you can't duplicate. He's the only guy you can't replicate. If it's but Jalen Williams, I think got Case and Wallace. Case and Wallace can probably step up and have a really good season and take over a lot of the playmaking and shot making. They just have redundancy everywhere. That's the biggest thing with OKC is that there's different types of depth where it's we have 12 guys that can all do different things. And the Thunder instead are no. We have 18 guys that all do this, that all do the same thing, except for 2 of them, and they cover each other. And then we got Shai. And that's really the secret to them. It's really tough because I think picking the Thunder when we haven't seen a repeat champ since 2018 is both boring and seems to be buying into just it's so obvious that I am resistant to it from this is sports. The obvious oftentimes goes awry, but God, it is just so hard for me, Haize. Whenever I take a big step back, I'm just yeah, the Thunder are going to win the title again. They're going to win 68 games. They're going to win the title again. It just seems very, very obvious.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that. They're the safe bet. Not only because of Shai, like you mentioned, and the redundancy, but also because so many of their young, like we started this off like, can Chet make that leap and be and complete that big three? Yeah, and that's what's so scary about it, is that he could. He's not even scratched the full surface of what he can be as a player. So like, if he does take it to another gear and another level, absolutely, right? And there's still like another 2 or 3 players that you could say the same thing about on this team. They are so young, right? I believe they were the youngest team in the league last year, and they just won a title. So like, yeah, they're the safest bet. Is it boring? Yes, but sometimes things are boring because they're the right answer. But to get back on Chet, like, I love that they do have the redundancy built in, that they do have Hartenstein, that they do have players built in here. Them drafting Thomas Sorby, even though he's going to miss this season, is them already thinking ahead of when, Hartenstein's contract's up. But it would sure be nice if he does. And then we could start talking about, like, the ceiling of this team, because, Matt, I don't know if you agree or not, but, like, I don't even know if we've seen the ceiling of this Thunder, remotely the ceiling of this Thunder's team yet.
I hear you. I don't know if it's going to come this year. I did look at, so they were number 1 in SRS, which is this number that's basically point differential versus your strength of schedule. How much did you win by versus how good were the opponents you played? They're the best ever. And the other 4 teams in the top 5 all won the title. I looked at the top 20 and was like, all right, how do they do the year after they have a season like that? Because that's an exceptional season. There's 2 of them this season, the Cavaliers and the Thunder. Okay. So that gets us down to 18. It's 6 yes, 12 no. Did not win the title the following season. The teams that did win the title the following season are basically the Bulls and the Warriors. So you have to put them on that level. You got to put them in the 90 and the Jordan Bulls level, or you got to put them in the Warriors level from the 2010s. I personally don't see that. They gave up the most 3-point attempts from the corner last season and had incredible luck in that category. I think it's likely that the defense is like a little worse this season. Not a lot, just like a little worse this season. But the offense might make up for that by being better, and they were already second last season. Again, it's like I can pick little tiny pinholes in the Thunder, and it doesn't matter because it's just like, yeah, they're a giant made out of iron. They're gonna win. By the way, something called a Chris Youngblood had 20 points in a preseason win over the Hornets this weekend.
He had back-to-back threes.
Like they have a machine that just, it's like the Sneetches. They just drop out of there with wings, able to score 20 points.
Haize, we picked, I think overwhelmingly, a lot of us picked the Nuggets to potentially repeat after they won in 2023. Overwhelmingly, people picked Boston to win after they won in 2024. Matt was already hitting on some stuff with the corner threes and some things like that. But if there's a reason why the Thunder won't repeat, what do you think it is?
Still shooting. Still 3-point shooting. That's still their Achilles heel. They could, I mean, we saw it a little bit against the Pacers, right? Like if they fall into a cold shooting series, they are still very susceptible to lose that series. That's still the biggest thing for them.
So I remember when the NBA finals were happening, watching the finals, we saw that AT&T commercial where Chet and Jalen Williams and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they were in that AT&T commercial like every break. And I remember calling my dad on the phone and him being like, I just now realized who those guys are in that AT&T commercial. It took the Thunder playing in the NBA Finals for him to be like, oh, those 3 tall guys, they're basketball players. It turns out they're just not 3 random guys in an AT&T commercial wearing dumb jackets. I bring that up because we asked Rylan Stiles, this is a championship caliber. This is a championship team, and yet it still doesn't feel like they're household names. What has to happen for them to transition from that to becoming that household type of team and household names? Here is Rylan with his answer.
How can the OKC Thunder allow casual fans to enjoy their games? It's pretty simple. Follow the plan. On national TV, the Thunder will be featured tied for the most in the league. In those games, they have to dominate, and more in particular, in those games, they have to play a beautiful brand of basketball. Whenever you put this team on display with their intense defense and their ability to turn you over and run the floor, if they can alter their half-court offense to make it look more aesthetically pleasing, leaning on the developmental improvement from SGA as a playmaker, leaning on Chet and J-Dub taking a step forward, and the role players knocking down the gimme shots that they should have around that big three, it can look like poetry in motion. You're going to see them more this season after a lengthy playoff run, and that could allow people to come around on the joys of watching what should be a dominant team this year in the NBA.
We'll do a couple of quick answers here, but Matt, is poetry in motion enough of a selling point in 2025?
No, come on, get out of here. Get out of here. It's a highlight league. Come on. I've never said so. Look, they're not going to be household names. They're just not. They're not going to be household names, and that's okay because you win championships and no one can tell you anything. The Spurs weren't household names. Like how many casual fans knew Tony Parker? How many casual fans could point out who Manu Ginobili was? Like how many casual fans knew who Bruce Bowen was, right? You knew Tim Duncan because Tim Duncan was a monster in college and was an MVP and that level, and they'll know Shai, but like they're not going to be that way. The other thing I do think is like it started last season. You're going to see the turn this season where a lot of people are going to really start to hate this team because of the physicality that they play with and how it seems like they get away with more than other teams do. You got Shai baiting fouls on one end and then Alex Caruso suplexing big men on the other. And that combination is, I think, going to lead to that's maybe the best way for them to actually, if you want to know how they're going to get known, that's going to be how is they got to improve how much people hate them. And that's going to start turning this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that winning does do a lot, and they're going to be on national TV a lot as they deserve to be. So, and I like what Rylan went with there as far as performing on the big stage the most. But I also think Matt's not wrong either. Like you have to have some type of personality about your team, and as much as the Thunder are a great basketball team, would we say that they have like a team identity as far as like they're not the toughest team, they aren't bad guys yet, right? Something like that has to develop. People have to either love you at one end of the spectrum or they have to completely hate you on the other end of the spectrum for you to be that household name. And whichever way that goes for the Thunder, I do think is going to make a big determination on that as far as them becoming that household name.
Maybe the villains from Oklahoma is the identity that they need to do, right? Maybe that's ultimately the path forward for them to become household names. We're going to move on, though. We're going to talk about the New York Knicks and whether or not they can overcome a key roster issue to make it to the NBA Finals. Today's episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and more efficient. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy levels every week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. The best way to support the show is to subscribe on YouTube. The Knicks have one of the most talented rosters in the NBA, but according to Gavin Shaw of Locked On Knicks, there's still a key question at the top.
Hey, what's up, guys? Gavin Shaw of the Locked On Knicks podcast here. Biggest question for me on the New York Knicks coming into the season: is it feasible to construct a championship caliber lineup around Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns? They are inevitably going to be two of the worst defenders that are playing over 30 minutes a game for any team in the playoff, much less the contenders. And in turn, like, the Knicks have to go to great lengths to compensate for that, or they have to go the other way. So last season, they tried to take a half measure starting Josh Hart. That didn't work out very well. They were a net negative from January 1st on as a starting five. They were minus 52, I believe, over the course of 13 playoff games. It just didn't work. So will you lean all into defense around them and try to play Mitchell Robinson and try to be physical and try to crush other teams on the glass? Or will you do what was probably the intention when you first traded for Cat, which is leaning all the way in the offense, start Deuce McBride, load up with shooting, put together a historically great offense, and hopefully compensate for a defense that inevitably won't be a lot better than average?
Haize, the Knicks made it to the conference finals last year. Is this really that big of a deal? And if it is, how can they overcome it?
Man, I mean, I think it becomes a bigger deal as you look towards playoff basketball. That's where it becomes the bigger deal at. And they're one of the teams that do need to be thinking about the playoff fit, right? They need to be thinking about that. Some teams can worry about that as they get through the season, but the Knicks do need to be thinking about what the playoffs are going to look like for them, not to get too caught up in the future and overlook the now. So it can become a problem. I don't know how much. It really depends on Mike Brown and the team defense, how much you get them to buy into that. I think that's an important part. but I see this Knicks team, they're going to build off what they did last season in the playoffs. Like that above 500 record, I think is going to get better. I think ultimately it is a concern, but I don't have it as a huge concern for the Knicks right now.
I think it's a massive concern. I think that if you really ask, like, how did the Knicks beat the Celtics? What's the answer there? It's like the Celtics just absolutely messed themselves down their leg. Like that's pretty much what happened in those series. Like remember how much the Celtics were up in games 1 and 2 going into the 4th, and all of a sudden just like the Knicks won the game, and then the Celtics just imploded. I just don't know that they were that good that last year. I honestly kind of think the Pistons might like that foul. That foul gets called in that Pistons series, and that might have been a real different result there. I think the combo is really curious, especially because Haize, even if Mike Brown is an overall net improvement as a head coach, is he an improvement defensively as a head coach?
Depends on his, with Mike Brown, depends a lot on his assistants. Him himself, no.
That's a good take. I would say no, just because Tibbs has an amazing ability to get guys to be like, yes, I will sacrifice years off my career in order to make you happy. I don't know how he does it, but he does it pretty consistently. Without that, you're not going to get that like top end 100% effort, nor should you, because it does burn you out. If you have less effort around those two, it gets worse. And if the Knicks are like 18th, do I look at this team and go like, yeah, this is an elite level offense? Are they the Cavs? No. So I have a lot of questions, I think, about this Knicks team going in. They should be good, and they should be good enough to like win enough games to put themselves in a position where we have to talk about them. But the more I think and look at them, and they look good in preseason, I am very underwhelmed by the New York Knicks going into this year.
Matt, does the answer look something like what the Nuggets did in 2023, where offensively you're just so elite, and defense, like they were 13th in defensive rating last year? That was with Tibbs, to your point. Maybe that goes down a little bit under Mike Brown. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. But is there just a level that, okay, let's be slightly above average defensively. Maybe we can make some key stops and key moments, but we have to be elite offensively. Is that the formula?
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
And you could get there. But one of my other problems is they were so good with the Brunson Cat pick and roll to start the season, and then they just stopped. Like they just didn't do that anymore. And if you're not optimizing Karl-Anthony Towns on the offensive end, you are not getting the most out of this roster. But if you do that and you got Brunsoning and you have Cat as a huge important piece, guess what? The rest of the guys become 3-and-D spot-up shooters, and that's not what Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby want. They want a more egalitarian system where they have bigger roles. They do not want to be glorified role players. That's not why those guys are there. So I think keeping everybody happy is a little bit of a problem. Again, I don't think it's like, oh man, I think the Knicks are going to way underperform and miss the playoffs. No, come on, it's the Eastern Conference. But if we're talking about what level they can get to, I don't think the Knicks are going to be elite this season.
I want to pick up on that point of making everybody happy, because Josh Hart made headlines at Media Day talking about, hey, how he believes that he's a starter. Quote, I had the best year of my career last year, but that's in the past. I think I deserve to be a starter in the league, but at the end of the day, it's what's best for the team, end quote. We did ask Gavin whether or not this could become an issue. Already in the preseason, we've seen Mike Brown make a little bit of a change.
Hey, what's up, guys? Gavin Shaw, Locked On Knicks here. I think Josh's comments were mostly tongue-in-cheek. I want to take you back to last May, Eastern Conference Finals. Knicks blow a 17-point lead with under 3 minutes to go in Game 1. They lose Game 2, down 0-2 against the Indiana Pacers. And it was not Tom Thibodeau who said, all right, we got to press the big red button and start Mitchell Robinson. It was Josh Hart who went to Tom Thibodeau and said, hey, coach, I'm willing to come off the bench. I think we have to try something else. This is clearly not working. And that showed a level of self-awareness that I think outweighs like a rightful amount of pride that Josh Hart has. And look, he's earned that pride, right? Like if he goes to the bench, he'll immediately be one of the most overqualified bench players in the NBA. I think he's clearly one of the top 100 players in the league. He is someone in a vacuum who absolutely deserves to start, but I think he's self-aware enough to realize like, hey, the starting lineup didn't really work with me in there, right? They were net negative from January 1st on. Teams started putting their bigs on Josh, daring him to shoot, wings on Cat. Cat is just not a good enough passer out of drives to take advantage of that. Josh is not a good enough shooter to take advantage of that. Something has to change, and in this case, it's Josh Hart not starting.
Hey, is this the right move? Bench Josh Hart, start Mitchell Robinson the way the Knicks did in their first preseason game? What do you think is the right answer there?
I mean, it's hard to say because it depends on how this jumbo front court with Mitchell Robinson and Karl-Anthony Towns. On paper, it does help a lot. And to Matt's point earlier, I think maybe that even frees you up to go back to more pick and roll things with Jalen and Cat. So it could be. And I hope that they keep using it throughout the play-in to see, because if you can do that, you can force mismatches. You can force teams to play the way that you want to play. But Josh Hart was so important to that team as just the engine and the heart. So you could lose a little bit of something, but I think there are some other benefits too, because if you do need to shop Mitchell Robinson eventually at some point this season, you'll have a lot of data to get that done. So I think there are a couple of things why it benefits the Knicks to do that, but I don't know if I feel quite safe that it's going to end up being their best lineup. And it may come down to who finishes more than who starts too.
Josh Hart 2 years ago, 91st percentile in defensive EPM. Last season, the season before last, 89th percentile. Last year, 56th. Fell off a cliff there. I have a little bit of a concern that he's getting Luol denged by Tibbs, that there's too many minutes on him and they've run him into the ground. He's had recurring injury issues pretty consistently, despite defending Tibbs's minutes allotment and how he was Tibbs's guy. And I am a little bit kind of curious what that means. Another small interesting note here. So they're hard capped, and they've only got one roster spot for 3 veteran guards that are available on their training camp roster: Malcolm Brogdon, Garrison Matthews, and Landry Shamet. Okay, fine. They'll probably just sign Brogdon and move on, and that's totally cool. And that's still the most likely scenario. But Ian Begley of SMY.TV this weekend had a report that said that of the rotation guys, while Miles McBride has big supporters inside the organization, they might look to trade him because there's been teams that have called asking. If they lose Josh Hart's defensive aptitude and then they trade Miles McBride because they need to open up roster and cap flexibility, I start getting real worried about what this Knicks team looks like, because those other guys I do not think are worth that kind of investment. They still likely keep McBride and just sign one of those dudes, but it's just something to keep an eye on. But the underpinnings here on New York, there's a reason. It's not that I'm making up reasons to back the position of being Knicks skeptical. It's that these are all the things that kind of have me I don't know if this is going to be as easy as everyone makes it out to be with the Knicks in the East.
Preseason basketball is here. We have a loaded slate tonight, guys. Kevin Durant and the Rockets, Victor Wembanyama and the Spurs, Nikola Jokić and the Nuggets will tell you what we're watching for after this. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you're not going to want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Welcome back to Locked On NBA. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. The Locked On Podcast Network has a show for every team, so make sure you check out Locked On Thunder and Locked On Knicks for more on our previews. And also, you might want to check in on Locked On Grizzlies, because right before we started recording, the Grizzlies announced that Ja Morant suffered a sprained left ankle in practice yesterday and is considered now week to week. Quick reaction to this, guys. Matt?
Are the Grizzlies did the Grizzlies actually have old West, Wild West doctors? Are they in there with turpentine selling tonics? Are they just gonna are they hacking off bones? What is going on in the training room? For the love of God, this is killing me. You're killing me, Grizzlies.
Yeah, I mean, this sucks. It's just, especially to have this at the start of the season. They already went through change with Desmond Bane being gone. They're already dealing with injuries in the front court. So now you have a major injury in the back court as well. At some point, we just gotta the good mojo that was around the Grizzlies 3-4 years ago. All that's gone. It's just replaced with just bad vibes, bad juju all across that team.
6 preseason games tonight. What are we looking for? Haize, start with you. When you look at the slate, some interesting teams playing.
Yeah, I mean, outside of just what we talked about with Memphis, definitely Detroit. I'm always excited to see Detroit. This is one of my league pass teams this year, and it sucks to say that, but they're just a fun, exciting team. I'm excited to see that. And then Milwaukee, too, to see what this lineup looks like and how much they play, because I don't I don't look very favorably upon Milwaukee's roster, but they are intriguing to watch how it's going to shake out. And I'm excited to see how that looks.
I have a ton. How many threes are the Rockets going to shoot? Because I looked this morning and there are some absolutely terrifying numbers about Houston. They shot 12. They made 12.4 3-pointers per game last season. They lost 9.4 of those in the offseason and injuries. And then Dorian Finney-Smith and Kevin Durant only account for 4 more. Like, I'm very worried about what their offensive balance is going to look like and if they're going to be able to generate enough threes. This is looking like a Stone Age offense. So I want to see that. Wes, is Davion Mitchell going to play with that calf?
TBD.
That's what I want to see. I want to see Davion Mitchell because I like the way the Heat looked in that opener. Really, they look like the Heat again, which I'm very excited about. Detroit, I want to see what this team looks like with Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert. Vibes. Ron Holland has been like outwardly saying how good the vibes are and how good the chemistry is with Detroit, but he's too young to know. I'm very interested to see that team and see what they kind of look like. The Spurs play the Luong Lions from Guangzhou, and I just want to note that Wemby trained with Shaolin monks this summer. We're Chinese, and now they're facing a Chinese team. So interesting battle there. I also want to see, like, Victor put his shoulder into a dude this weekend and bumped him backwards and finished it. He looks like he's actually leveled up, which I don't even know what that looks like. It's like Godzilla. That's absolutely gonna be incredible. Cooper Flagg with the Mavericks season debut. If he comes out and just kills everybody, I'm gonna have to actually give the Mavericks some respect. So I'm kind of dreading that outcome.
They'll still hate you for that too, man.
And then Colin Murray-Boyles, who has been absolutely driving the rest of the Raptors front court nuts in training camp because of how physical and annoying he is, goes up against Nikola Jokić tonight. If Jokić plays, that should be a really great matchup as well. Denver needs to actually look like they give a damn on defense, or I'm going to start getting a little bit worried even in preseason.
Haize, can we go back to Victor Wembanyama? Would you be surprised if he starts talking to this team in their native tongue?
No, not at all. No. Trash talking multiple languages like Kobe.
Just like Kobe.
Hit him with all of them.
Great rundown there, Matt. I am excited to see the Heat. You were talking about how maybe they look like the Heat again. I would disagree. They were playing way faster and up-tempo than any Heat team I've ever watched before. They played at a pace in that first Magic game of 107. That was the pace for that game. That would have been tops in the league by a mile last year. I don't know if that's something that can stick, right? We'll see how much they can commit to that. But all the talk outside of Heat training camp or out of Heat training camp right now is how they want to be in that kind of condition so that they can play fast all season long. But I don't know. You can only judge what's in front of you, and I'll be interested to see if they could do it in this preseason game too. Also, Giannis TBD on whether or not he's going to play for Milwaukee in that game.
He shouldn't. Coming off COVID, take it easy, buddy.
It's more questionable.
That Hawks team, I think that's playing the Rockets, right? That's going to be like another, I think, a little bit kind of interesting to see the depth on Atlanta, because they do have like a lot of guys. They have a lot of guys who they are not even like, there's household names, right? They're not even like league pass household names. They're not even like sicko household names. There's a lot of guys that I'm like, who's that guy? For the Hawks, but they're actually pretty good. Locked On Hawks does a really great job of identifying those guys. So check out Brad Rowland over there for Locked On Hawks. So that one I think is actually really interesting. Like this Rockets Hawks might be the most interesting game on the slate tonight when you factor in, hey, how does Amen Thompson look? Is Alperen Şengün going to carry over the Eurobasket stuff? Like KD's going to be KD. He'll play like 15, 19 minutes and look awesome. But I am just really curious about like what style the Rockets look like, because it hadn't really hit me until today, Haize, and you've been the guy that's been highest on the Rockets. The Van Vliet thing hurts because he's a connector, but it's also just like, man, Dorian Finney-Smith is going to miss the start of the season too.
Yes.
Like the spacing I am getting a little worried about the spacing here, because Amen was 47% from 3 last season. I am concerned.
We'll see. The spacing is a problem. Like the Dorian Finney-Smith, it's his ankle, if I'm not mistaken. Hopefully he doesn't miss much time into the start of the season, but not having him is going to mean that you're going to need even more from like a Tari Eason to step up and stuff like that. And at least Dorian Finney-Smith, you kind of know what he is and what he brings each and every game. But yeah, the Rockets they're starting off the season having to figure out some stuff about the rotation. So it's going to be interesting to see there.
Based on the Rockets' offseason moves, I don't think they give a bleep about spacing. They went and signed Clint Capella. They got Kevin Durant. This Fred VanVleet went down. Don't worry about it. We're not going to trade to try to replace him. He was actually getting in the way. He was spacing too much for us. We're trying to play at the rim and only at the rim. Locked On Game Night will obviously have recaps and breakdowns of everything that goes on tonight in the preseason. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thank you to Matt and Haize for their expertise every day. Thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen. We'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On NBA.